Some truly unexpected news occurred this week, and I honestly have some very mixed feelings about it. But that news was Amazon has secured a deal with the Tolkien estate that they are going to have a multi-season Lord of the Rings show. I imagine for Amazon Prime. Um, and it's a prequel. It will not take place during or after the events of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but they're probably not going to take place during the events of The Hobbit either. Um, according to the article and what has been announced so far, we are delighted that Amazon, with its long-standing commitment to literature, is the home of the first-ever multi-season television series for The Lord of the Rings, said Matt Galsor, a representative of the Tolkien Estate and Trust, and HarperCollins. Sharon and the team at Amazon Studios have exceptional ideas to bring to the screen previously unexplored stories based on J.R.R. Tolkien's original writings. Now, when I first heard about this, I thought I hadn't really read it in depth, and this actually gives me a little bit more hope, because I thought, okay, are they just gonna make stuff up? If they're just gonna make stuff up, I don't think I like that idea. I don't like the idea of adding to an original author's work, especially after they've passed away and they can't give their seal of approval on it. I understand his descendants own all that stuff, but still, it's not their work, it's his. So at first I had a problem about that, but if they are going to, because Lord of the Rings lore, really deep, really, really deep. I don't think there's really any other mythology out there that has as much history and side stuff happening as Middle-earth does. So you do have the potential there for some good adaptation. I've heard from a lot of people that have read the book, Silmarillion, and some of the appendices. They're kind of dry. It's just, it's not written in prose. It's written more as almost like a nonfiction, almost like an encyclopedia of sorts. So it's very dry. It's very just the facts only. So I doubt that they're gonna make a TV show like that, but I also just hope that they don't change too much. I'm open to some change when it comes to fiction, and of course having a screen adaptation is different from the book. You're going to have differences, but also one of the reasons I was initially positive towards this is I want to actually be able to watch something on Amazon that's worth watching, that I don't have to pay for extra. Lore is a new show on Amazon Prime, and if you have that, I do recommend that. But aside from that and a few shows that you could have also watched on TV, there hasn't really been much content to watch. So that'll be nice. It kind of looks like someone made the comment that Amazon is trying to compete with Game of Thrones, but no. Game of Thrones is for a very specific audience that, well, if you're in the audience, if you're in our audience and you like Game of Thrones, sorry, I'm going to say disparaging things about Game of Thrones if I ever get the opportunity, but you basically like dragons and porn in the same stuff. So that's how I look at Game of Thrones. That's not what Lord of the Rings is, though. That's not what Middle Earth is about. Thankfully, Tolkien actually had some class. So yeah, it's not going to be a Game of Thrones competitor. I think it should just be its own thing. There wasn't anything hinting at Peter Jackson being involved, so it might actually have a different feel than The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings movies. So that would be interesting to see from a different actor. What I know you're not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan, but would you? What? Am I saying something that's untrue?
Those are like some of my favorite movies. The Lord of the Rings ones, not the Hobbits. I'm not a fan of the Hobbits.
Well, then what's your opinion on this?
Well, I don't know if it's going off of other writings, because the only thing I'm really familiar with is... Actually, as far as writings go, I'm only familiar with The Hobbit. Because my mom read that to me and my brother and my sister when we were younger, so... That's the only part of the whole world of Middle-earth that I'm somewhat familiar with. But, my God, Lord of the Rings movies were, like, huge for me when I was a kid. Because that was... I had gotten to an age to where I could watch stuff like that, and those were, like, the first movies I could watch with, like, actual, like, death in them and killing that wasn't, like, an animated movie. Or that it wasn't like, oh, they fell to a pit. I guess they probably died.
They probably aren't going to get out of that pit.
Yeah. Well, I guess I did watch Tarzan, and they had a man hung in that one, so... But... Also, it kind of got...
They didn't show it directly.
No, they just showed his shadow.
Yeah. It's very different.
Which is better.
It's very different.
It's better. But those were so good. Oh, my dad bought all of the like unedited versions of the movies, the extended versions, and me and some family friends of ours, well, my family and them, we would have days where we would just like binge all those movies because it's almost like half a day.
Yeah.
Watching just 3 movies. They're all so good.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I think Return of the King is still my favorite movie of all time. Of any movie I've seen, I love Return of the King.
I think that has some really cool fight scenes. I think that the first one is still my favorite. The first or the second one. The third one definitely had like some of the cooler fighting scenes in it. But
I'd say the second one's my least favorite.
For nostalgia reasons, the first or second one is definitely my favorite movie.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a little worried because I really don't want them to
mess it up.
Just kind of be like, let's let the name carry it, and then we'll try and do some work with it, like The Hobbit.
Have you seen The Hobbit? Any of the Hobbit movies?
I've seen them all.
You did?
Yes.
I don't see how you can dislike them that much.
That's too much CGI. No, like there's some...
I know. To me, it's like that's not a valid complaint to say that a movie.
That isn't the only reason.
But there's a full decade in between those films.
You can definitely tell movies back in like early 2000 that are like that just have. They do have CGI in them. They do.
Yes.
Quite a bit.
They do things with the camera in the Hobbit films that you could not have done on a non-CG set.
But it just felt like there was more just heart and soul put into the original 3 than there was into the Hobbit.
I've also got the extended versions of those, and I watched the they call them the appendices, like all the special features that are about 12 hours per trilogy. So it's like 24 hours of stuff. There's a lot more practical stuff in The Hobbit than you might realize that they used. Here's the deal. Movies are made on green screen these days. All the Marvel movies, green screen. Practically everything's green screen. I mean, like it or not, that's the reality of movie making where we currently are.
No, yeah.
And I don't think... And also the thing is, CG has become cheaper than making something real.
Which sucks. And I hate that in cinematography, because if you look at movies back in like I watched Aliens for the first time like a few months ago, and that looked so good.
The puppet
He
of the
looked
alien?
really good.
No. I'm serious. Yeah,
Everything about that movie, like even like the original like Jurassic Park movie, like going back and watching that, it's just like, oh my gosh, you can just kind of see where in like the 2000s where cinematography became more CGI oriented, other than just like making something
Right.
that you actually cared about, other than just like, oh well, we have technology.
But at the same time, like CG has gotten to the point where, like, everyone was really mad about what's his name? I'm just gonna say the white orc. Oh, he's all CG, and he looks good. I didn't have a problem with him being all CG, or all of the orcs being all CG. Like, to me, it's like the CG looks a lot better in The Hobbit than it does in Lord of the Rings. That's why it was a mixture of CG and practical effects. To me, you use what's real, and when The Hobbit was being created, remember, we had a worldwide recession happening. So they kind of had to do it for what was going to be easier and cheaper to do it. I think you have to look at movies through that lens of when they were produced and when their production schedule actually happened, and the things that were affecting them, like writer strikes and that kind of thing, because that has an effect on the art. But anyway, back to the Amazon stuff. I think Amazon's pretty good at listening to fans. As far as, if they're smart, they will listen to fans and have more practical stuff happening in it. Even though, like I said, CG is typically cheaper to do nowadays. Good CG is still pretty expensive. So hopefully they do more like, hey, if you don't have a set, just go find a forest and film in the forest. I mean, what's so hard about doing that? You don't have to spend a whole lot of money doing that, except getting your people out there. I'd like to see more of that. And if they do it, I would love to, see them get 10 episodes out of it. And it's really strange because they've actually they've already committed to more than one season at this point. So they're already counting on it being a success.
I don't know.
I'm gonna honestly, my final thing on this is I'm definitely going to hold my judgment on it until I actually see something like a trailer or the first episode. I will probably watch this when it comes out.
No. Do you have to pay any extra for Amazon Prime?
Yes. Overall, it's cheaper than Netflix, but you have to pay for a full year of it.
Well, I don't pay for Netflix.
Or 6 months. Yeah. And Netflix just keeps getting more and more, so maybe some people will switch.